on to the next Well Women guest speaker. Now, I'm really excited about this. I say that for every single one, but I am, because I've known Sonya a little bit because we work at the same place, but I don't actually really know you or your story. And so I'm really excited. And I'm really excited about what you do, because I've never heard of it. So tell me if I've got this right. You're a creativity and spiritual guide coach, and you're a Labyrinth facilitator.
Yes.
I've never heard of that, and that's, to me, I'm really interested. It sounds what is that?
Well, we can start with I don't know, they're both very exciting to me. We'll start with the Labyrinth facilitator. So I have worked with the Labyrinth for about 20 years, and the Labyrinth is to put like 2 hours into a few minutes. The Labyrinth is an ancient form of walking meditation.
Right.
So it is, at first glance to most people, it looks like a maze, but it's not a maze. It is based on sacred geometry. And there's two main types of labyrinths. There's a classical labyrinth and a medieval labyrinth.
Wow.
And the classical labyrinth dates back to 2500 BC and is found in tomb carvings. It's found in Greek pottery, and it's found in ancient manuscripts. The other labyrinth, the medieval design or Chartres design, was originated in the Chartres Cathedral in France in the year 1200. And essentially, the labyrinth serves as a metaphor for our journey through life. Because it's not a maze, it is one path to the center, and the same path brings you back out again. The process of the walk is seen as a three-part journey. The journey from the entrance to the center being a journey of release. The time spent in the center being a moment of receiving, and then the journey back out again is returning. So basically, the labyrinth can be used in secular and non-secular situations. I used to work as a youth minister, so I was able to bring the labyrinth into very Christian settings. And at the same time, I was offering the labyrinth to people at a cancer wellness center. So it was a center that was created for anyone dealing with cancer or their caregivers could come into this place and do various techniques to help them. There was Reiki, there was art, and I offered the labyrinth. So in that setting, there was a lot of people who didn't have a spiritual path, or who were perhaps quite angry at God because of the situation that they were in. So it's just a good example of how the labyrinth can become whatever someone needs it to be. Whatever intention is brought to the labyrinth is essentially put into the center, metaphorically. And when you walk towards that intention, you're reflecting on, what do I need to release in order to discover something? So the best example for me to give with the use of a labyrinth, and I mean, I came to the labyrinth, like I said, 20 years ago, and the first walk changed my life. It changed my doing, from being very, very busy and overworked into simply slowing down and embracing the moment and listening to the journey. So the labyrinth for me, one of the most healing and transformative experiences that I've had with the labyrinth was after losing my mom to cancer. She lived with us, and I basically became her caregiver. And in that process, I didn't have a lot of time to be her daughter because I was looking after her. I was also in a great state of denial. She was only 53, and there was just no way that I would accept that she was she was going to die. So when she passed, the grief was astronomical, as it is. And I was at a retreat center in Ontario, Canada, where I'm from. And there was, the Labyrinth was there. And I walked the Labyrinth to help me process that grief. So when I walked in to the center, I was reflecting on all of those things that I never got a chance to say, being lost in the caregiver role. And when I got to the center, I said them right out loud. I was there by myself and I just spoke to her and I said all of the things that I wished I had a chance to say. And I began to smell lilacs, which was her favorite flower. There was none in bloom anywhere in sight. And when I came back out, which was the return, the grief was still there, but it was like this huge weight had been lifted off of my shoulders. So that's just one example of how beautiful the Labyrinth can be. And I have a book right in front of me here called The Unending Mystery. And this is a classical labyrinth, but that's exactly what it is. It is an unending mystery because you can bring absolutely anything into the labyrinth and it offers a form of self-discovery. So I have worked with it in different settings for 20 years and have watched people walk in with doubt and fear and questions and grief and whatever, and come out of there in tears and joy and acceptance and just a deeper sense of peace inside. So for me, it's been a real form of personal wellness, emotional, spiritual, mental wellness. And it's become my passion to offer it to other people. So
is it a physical walk?
It is.
So it's not a walk that you're imagining in your head, you're actually doing a physical
You're
walk.
actually doing it. Yes. So there's over 5,000 labyrinths, known labyrinths in the world. Some of them are in churches and cathedrals. Some of them are in hospitals, retreat centers, personal properties, and some of them, especially in older places, Scotland, England, Ireland, they can still be found among ruins, in the woods. I personally have some that I've created myself, and they're on canvas and Hessian. So they fold up and they go with me, and I put them in a, retreat center or, wherever I find space to host me as a venue. And I use them that way. And I also create them for other people. So if someone wants a portable labyrinth, I will do one on canvas for them.
And is that like you do a guided meditation, or is
yes.
it right?
Yeah, so I start a labyrinth walk with a bit of a talk so they understand what it is, which is somewhat similar to what I just gave you, with some interesting facts about the history and the stories of it, and then help to bring them into the space with a guided meditation. I've been teaching meditation for about the same amount of time. A little bit of breath work just to help them let go of whatever they might have brought with them and come into the space. And then I just hold the space for them while they walk. If it's a lot of people, I help to space them out a bit so they don't get too congested in one area. And it's really just about noticing what comes up for you on the walk. Are you feeling confused? Are you wanting to hurry? Do you want to slow down? What are you noticing about other people on the path? Because it's very much an intertwining of how we meet people in life. Sometimes we end up walking right beside them. Sometimes we look like we're coming towards them and then we go the other way. And that's what the pathways of the labyrinth do for people. I also create them in the sand at the beach. If it's low tide, I'll draw one on the sand and just leave it there and walk away. And people are just drawn to it and walk it. And even if someone comes upon it and doesn't know any of what I just shared, it's it's just a quiet walking path of meditation. You know, it may or may not be this profound experience. It quite often is. But if not, it's just a moment to slow down and listen to that quiet inside. So it's just really deeply healing. And my work with the Labyrinth encouraged me to take a 2-year program in spiritual direction, because I was finding a lot of people coming out of the Labyrinth with things coming up for them that they needed to process. And I wanted to be able to support them in that and hold the space in that. So as a spiritual life guide, I basically meet with people, whether it's, you know, in the space of a labyrinth or one-on-one or in a group, and it's a process of deep listening to what is going on for them in a spiritual or emotional sense, and then offering guidance and practices to help them deepen that. So it's not counseling, it's not therapy, it's really just letting them be seen and heard, and then offering something that could help them, whether it's, you know, journaling or walking in nature, or a prayer practice, or a creative practice. And we just kind of take it from there. So it kind of all goes hand in hand.
And do you think, like within health and well-being,
Mm-hmm.
we obviously talk about the mind, we talk about the body. Do you kind of feel like spirituality, creativity, the energetics of us is really kind of still on the fringe, and that actually that's part of the puzzle, and people might be working on their mind, they might be working physically, but if they still feel ill, or they still feel like something's missing, then it might actually be the creativity and the spirituality that
Absolutely.
is actually missing, and this is the final puzzle piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it's done for me, is it's really helped to balance that whole, you know, holistic body, mind, spirit. I mean, you can have the most fit and healthy body, but if you're suffering or you know, unbalanced in the emotional or the spiritual side of yourself, there's not a balance there. And my personal approach to spirituality is not connected to any one religion. I really just encourage people to do some exploration. If they don't have a set faith, to do some exploration and find what their faith is to them. I mean, I know what mine is and what I was brought up with, but I've worked with so many people who have absolutely no sense of faith, and that's when dependency on other things comes in, you know, substance abuse or anger issues or that type of thing, when there's nothing to draw upon on the inside. Then those issues come up. So I just really try to guide people through those creative practices. You know, I work with dream collage and journaling and creativity. I've recently started offering dress up days for women to come, and I'm kind of a costume and headdress designer on the side, to come and just put this stuff on and play dress up like they did as a kid. And it turned into, you know, just this transformative healing day. And again, it's just that willingness to play and to be creative and to just let what's been suppressed and what's stuck inside come out in some way. And it can come out through so many different forms of creativity. So I kind of tap into all of them, and I love watching what comes out for people when they step past that whole, you know, I'm not creative, or I can't paint, or I can't, you know, because we all can.
So what's your
letting go of the expectation.
What's your definition of creativity? Because I'm wondering if people think creativity is, oh well, I can't draw and I can't paint, therefore I'm not creative.
Exactly. I think my definition of creativity is just allowing the imagination to take hold and trusting in the process. And I mean, that's part of the labyrinth. It's trusting in the process of the path. And creativity is the same thing. If you can dip a paintbrush in paint and put it on canvas, you've painted. you don't have to paint the Mona Lisa to be creative and to be a painter, it's just allowing it to come out. And any of the creative practices that I do, like I'm currently running a discovery journaling course where we're working with collage and journaling, and then we used pastels the other night. We're going to be using paints, whatever we're using, but it's going back after and taking it apart. What was surprising for you? What was difficult? What did you discover? I remember years ago when I was working in youth ministry, I had 17 children in a large room, and they each had a small canvas and a tray of paint. And I encouraged them to all sit in their own space so they couldn't see anyone else. So they had their backs to each other. They were all spread out. And I said, I'm just going to put some music on, and I want you to just paint whatever you feel. And I encouraged them to do this in silence. I said, if you need more paint, just raise your hand and I'll come and give you more paint. And these kids were between 6 and 12 years old. And for half an hour, they were completely in silence, painting whatever they felt in the music. And it was absolutely beautiful. And when we took it apart later, I started with a very slow and kind of more of a sad tune. It was a classical piece of music, but something that they probably wouldn't just pop on at home. And, the most interesting thing was that every single one of them started with the color blue. And it was being able to take that apart and having them really see, like, you don't have to paint anything. You don't have to produce something that's going to be marked or graded. You just have to listen to what's inside. And it was beautiful. So
do you think that the creativity that we lose it? We have it when we're kids, but we lose it as adults because we want to fit in and we want to be put in a box, and that creativity and expression means that we might not necessarily fit because it's and so therefore we suppress it, and then that is going to come out in some way when we're older.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's it can be totally suppressed, especially when we do try to check off those boxes along the way. And it's interesting that you bring up the box, because I have 3 children. They're 15, 20, and 22, a son and 2 daughters. And they really taught us that not only to think outside of the box, but that there is no box. And I mean, that's how we ended up coming from Canada to New Zealand, was just that realization that this is something that we have to do. And even though, maybe family questioned it, or, we're concerned or whatever, it was just, this is something we have to do. And even though it's not a typical thing that people do, we have to do it. And I think suppression of creativity is the same thing, because it comes from imagination, and we as adults don't get a lot of time to play with that imagination.
That's true.
So, yeah.
So tell everyone, what has led to you being to where you are? I mean, you talked about what made you first find the Labyrinth? When you were young, were you always spiritual, creative? Did you lose it? Did you come back? What's been your journey?
Well, I was born and raised in the Anglican Church, with generations of my family, the same church. And when I was pregnant with my first child, so I was 26, 27, an opening came up for church secretary. And I actually thought, this will give me something to do while I'm pregnant and, after I have the baby, because I wasn't going to be working, and I thought it was a volunteer position. Right. And when they hired me, I was thrilled to realize that it was actually a paid job. Yeah. And in that, we went on a secretary's retreat, and there was a labyrinth at this retreat. It was another woman who had a canvas labyrinth that belonged to our Anglican diocese. And she offered this labyrinth walk. And it was that walk. I was on this path. It was very narrow pathways, and there was about, I don't know, 18 or 20 church secretaries. And all we were told was really to just listen to what came up for us. And all I wanted to do was get to the center. And I was so frustrated that these women were moving so slowly and they were stopping along the way. And I thought, like, what's the problem here? Let's just walk in these circles and get to the center. And it was just this realization of, that's how I was getting through my days, was just checking off everything on my to-do list and getting stuff done and not paying attention to the moment. And I didn't want that. So it was huge. I mean, it sounds really simple, but I came out of it and just went and said to her, I'm like, I don't know what just happened in there. And she just smiled at me, as I now have with many people, because she knew exactly what happened. And I immediately started using that labyrinth and offering it to other people, because I was just so taken by it. I started doing the research. About 8 years later, I trained with the woman who started the Worldwide Labyrinth organization as a facilitator. And I'll admit, I went into it kind of, ego driven, thinking I've been working with this thing for 8 years now. I've read the books. I know what I'm doing, but I should probably get this certification. So, I've got that beside my name, and really thought that she wasn't going to be able to teach me anything. And 10 minutes after she started talking, I was just like, yeah, that's why I'm here. So she taught me so much in that training, and I'm now part of 2 international labyrinth organizations. I'm on the board of directors for the Labyrynth Society, as well as a regional rep and an international regional rep liaison. So just kind of spreading the news of the labyrinth to anyone who is enthusiastic or passionate about it. And I'm working with a friend on a kind of a documentary on my story of the labyrinth, what it's done for me, what it is, and what my hopes are for my work with labyrinths in New Zealand, because there's actually about 30 registered labyrinths throughout New Zealand.
Wow. How come we don't do much about it? I mean, are there countries where it's really, really big, and then other countries where it's kind of just, we don't know about it?
Yeah. So it's my hope to visit all of those in New Zealand and kind of gather their stories. Why did you create it? Who created it? What's the history of the land? I visited a couple. Some of them were put in maybe years ago, and whoever is looking after them now doesn't really know much about the labyrinth. So I can offer training to give them a little bit more insight into just how to get the most out of it. Because when you know the history of something and develop that passion for it, you can offer so much more. So yeah, that's one of my missions with my work with the Labyrinth in New Zealand, because I've only been here almost 4 years. So
that means that if there are people that aren't in Auckland, they're in Christchurch, or they're in Wellington or Dunedin or whatever, that if they were interested, that you would probably be able to tell them where they could go in other parts of New Zealand if they wanted to experience the labyrinth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then, so that what then made you want? Was it that experience with the labyrinth that, as you said, because of working with people going through the labyrinth, that's then the catalyst for wanting to actually learn more about spirituality, because that was something that was coming out?
Yes. I was seeing very clearly how the labyrinth was opening things for people. Things like forgiveness and personal acceptance of something in their lives. I've had a number of people come to walk it that are suffering in their health and are trying to kind of understand that whole, why is this happening to me? Like even my mom, I took her to walk a labyrinth, which she was familiar with because of my work. But when she was diagnosed with cancer, I mean, she was a Catholic woman. She very strong faith, had great plans for her life. You know, being a nana to my two girls at the time was her most special thing. And now she's told that she has cancer and it doesn't look good. And I mean, there was anger and fear and just questioning, you know, why is God doing this to me? And she walked that labyrinth with me in Niagara Falls, Canada, at a beautiful retreat center. And it was just incredible. I mean, I ended up walking beside her at some points, like I said, and other times we were on the other side, and then we'd come together and move apart. And every time she passed by me, she'd kiss my cheek. And when we came out of that labyrinth walk, she was a completely different person. She said, I accept this. Whatever God's reason is for bringing this to my life, I accept this. And she literally went through the rest of her journey with cancer with such grace and acceptance, probably more so than I even had, you know, for her.
Yeah.
But it can do that. And it's one of those things that, you know, whatever your faith is, it can help strengthen that faith. If you have no faith, it might be able to offer you something. And it's really just a spiritual tool for unlocking what's already inside. You know, you can bring a question to the labyrinth and think that you don't know the answer, but the answer is somewhere inside of you already. It just provides kind of the container for you to hear it come forward.
Do you think the labyrinth is you going deep into your soul, or do you think it's something else?
Oh, it's definitely going deeper into your soul, and deeper into the intention of whatever you bring to it. You know, I've brought questions into it. I've brought blockages into it, creative blockages, writing blockages, and it just kind of makes everything else fall aside so that you can hear it, so that it can come forward. And quite often, like I said, it's a journey of noticing. It's noticing, you know, do I feel the need to rush through this? What does that mean? Do I feel the need to stop, you know, in different parts along the way? What does that mean? And it helps you to see maybe how you move through different aspects of your life. And how you feel. Like, it's a very different experience walking the labyrinth alone and with a group of people. And it's also different walking with a group of people that you know, or have maybe spent time with, you know, in a retreat, or have come to a walk and you don't know anybody. So every single time is different. And even for me, after 20 years of leading labyrinth walks, every single one is different. And some of them are so powerful that I stand on the outside holding space and can't help but cry, because I can see what's unfolding in there. And others are simply just a quiet, peaceful walk of meditation. So it's just beautiful how it's different.
And it doesn't matter. So if anyone's listening, it could be either that you're not well and you want to kind of work through that, or it could be that you maybe just feel a bit stuck, or you feel a bit unfulfilled, or whatever.
Yeah.
Either extreme, it's really just about giving yourself the time to really listen in order to kind of get some answers.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very much like walking in nature. You know, they say that you can't walk into the forest and be in a bad mood. You know, there's something about that. And it's kind of the same type of walk. You can't walk these pathways and not feel some sort of peace, or some sort of discernment, or some sort of self-inquiry, being, you know, inspired. And then, you know, where you take that afterwards is up to you. But Again, I offer myself, you know, if you need to talk about it, I'm here to listen. If you want to go further, if you want to do it again. I have already people in New Zealand who have walked the labyrinth with me that are becoming regulars every time I do it. It's not like, oh, I walked it once and it was great and let's move on. It's, you know, every time I do it,
I guess there's always something new.
Yeah, I offer a different theme. You know, my next walk is on the new moon, so it's going to be about, you know, releasing old habits and old blockages, and just coming into the new moon. And each one has a bit of a different ceremony to it. I sometimes use, you know, a card deck or candles, and just try to make it a little bit different, but still so that they're experiencing the wisdom of the labyrinth.
So you do like regular walks that you offer out for people to come and join. And so people could do that if they wanted to and they wanted to experience it, or could they, if they wanted to kind of do a one-on-one, then they can do that as well?
Yep, absolutely. I have the one that I have can be put on the grass. So I can put it outside and do it wherever. If it's, you know, if it's not aligning with one that I have booked at a venue. And I can also just meet with someone at the beach, and I draw one on the sand and walk it with them there. Wow. So yeah, it's always accessible. And there's finger labyrinths too. I mean, you can get one that you hold in your hands, and I do them on canvas with a slightly raised design so that you can trace it with your finger. So it's not the same as walking it, but if you can't get out and walk it, you can sit, you can put the same intention into it, you can meditate with it, you can close your eyes, and you can follow the path with your fingers. And I have some of those even on my YouTube channel, where I've, you know, you see my finger moving through the labyrinth as I lead a meditation. So it's very accessible.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. I'll make sure, I think, let me know what we'll talk about the YouTube channel where people can find you. So if you, bearing in mind where you are now then, and with your experience and understanding how transformational the labyrinth has been for you, if you were meeting your 20-year-old self, is there anything that you would say to help guide you on your journey, or to help maybe, I don't know, quicken the process? Or I mean, maybe you wouldn't necessarily quicken the process because that's part of the process, but what would you say? What advice would you give yourself?
Oh, knowing my 20-year-old self very well, I would have said to not be afraid to listen to that inner voice, because it was a very unique and different inner voice, and I set it aside because I wanted to fit in. I wanted to do everything I was supposed to do, you know. And yeah, I knew even then that I needed to do something different, that I didn't want to just check off all the boxes. And I ended up stuck in work and relationships because they felt like that's what I was supposed to do. And I really didn't listen to myself, and I really didn't let go of the need to satisfy the opinions of others, or the, you know, listening to the opinions of others until I was 40.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I
think thing as well, do you think women particularly are good at not ignoring their inner voice because we're people please? I mean, it's a huge generalization, but
yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. So if people wanted to work with you, they want to experience the labyrinth, or they wanted to do your creativity groups, like, what's the best way for people to find you?
Well, it's all on my website, which I can send to you. And I have a Facebook page for my my work, as well as my personal Instagram page. And Yeah, that's probably the best. I have an e-newsletter. If someone wants to send me their email, I can put them on my e-news, which is just a little bit more of a, thought process into what's coming up. And I'm always open to working with others as a collaboration with the Labyrinth. I've connected with a friend of mine who is very deeply immersed in cacao.
Yeah.
And working with cacao and learning about the history of cacao and ceremony and all of that. So we've actually combined and done a cacao and labyrinth offering, and it was absolutely beautiful because we brought the cacao right into the labyrinth, and it just, I'm really big on ceremony, and it just really heightened the ceremony. So we're doing that again up at a retreat center in Doubtless Bay, so quite far north, but I'm really excited about that. But because the labyrinth, it goes with everything. So it can offer an absolutely beautiful connection at the end of a retreat. So if someone's running a retreat, like, that is such a beautiful way to bring everyone together at the end. It's also something incredible to put in the middle as a discernment process or an intention. Sound journeys. I just partnered with AJ Hickling, who's known as the Queenstown piano busker. He was doing a New Zealand tour, and he literally just has his piano in the back of his house bus, and he rolls it out at the beach, at the side of a mountain, wherever, and he's a classically trained pianist. So he joined with me, and we did a live piano and labyrinth collaboration, and there was no rehearsal, there was nothing. He didn't even know what the labyrinth was. I laid it out, I gave him a bit of the history, and I said, I don't speak very loud, so you can kind of decide when to play and what to play. And he just kind of went with the flow of the whole thing, and it was so beautiful.
Well, the people just joined in, they saw it and they came over. And
yeah, I had I actually did that at one of the venues at Well Park at Kauai Pura Pura, and I had about 24 people show up, and I didn't know maybe half of them.
Wow.
And it was beautiful, and I served hot apple cider, and I try to make it a whole experience. It's not just, come and listen and walk and leave. It's, there's a whole experience there. I typically have a little like altar space set up so that they can further sit in meditation with a candle or some cards or a crystal or, whatever, but just to really get what they need to get out of the experience. And I'm just going to be starting to approach various churches on coming in and talking about the labyrinth and, how it can deepen whatever the faith of that church is, how it can help them draw closer to that, having, worked in the church setting for such a long time and bringing the labyrinth into that. So there's endless opportunities for it.
That's amazing. I was just thinking about, like, one of the things that's kind of come up with some of the speakers that I've talked to already is about, like, the woman's cycle and how we our energy and everything changes in each part of our cycle. And when we get to that premenstrual time and we're angry and we're irritated and we've got PMS symptoms, that it would be wonderful to do something like the Labyrinth to find out what's really going on, like what because we're angry all the time. It's just that's when the veil's lifted and we're really feeling it. So that would be amazing. If anyone's got those symptoms, go and do the Labyrinth to find out what's really going on and what your body's telling you something, your soul is telling you something, and this is the chance to actually really listen.
Yes, exactly. And whether it's just premenstrual or even the stages of a woman's life, I've been working on putting together called the Embodied Feminine, and it's a labyrinth retreat with a naturopath. She's actually one of our graduates, and looking at, you know, maiden, mother, we've
Yeah.
added wise woman and
Yeah.
crone,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a gap between mother and crone, because I know I'm in that gap and I'm not quite ready to be crone.
Yeah.
But so kind of that pre-menopause stage,
Yeah.
and bringing that into the labyrinth, and you know, how do you flow through those cycles? But then she's going to be bringing in some of the herbal, you know, remedies for each of those stages. So that should be coming together soon.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. I'm really pleased that I got a chance to find out more about it, because it sounds amazing, and I'm hoping that anyone in the circle, that this is resonating, that they get in touch with you and experience it, because it sounds fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for giving up your time on your day off.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
I've really enjoyed learning about that. And what was the book again? The Unending Mystery.
The Unending Mystery. I mean, there's so many. I just happened to find this one at a op shop like last week, and I hadn't seen it yet.
Right.
But there's so many books. So many books.
Oh, awesome. And people can find you on, you've got a YouTube channel if they want to listen more.
Yep. Everything's connected to my website. So maybe if I send you my website, they can find my Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Awesome. And you know, I keep my website very updated, so everything is on there that I have coming up, as well as some of what I've done in the past, so that they can kind of see, you know, how this unfolds.
Perfect. I will put that link up for everyone so they can contact you. Thank you so much, Sonya. I really, really appreciate it today.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice to chat with you in this atmosphere.
Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.